very strange for me. This is the fuselage one. It's the nose of the airplane. I told it to print on a raft so that I could get all the imperfections of the bed and stuff out of it while it's printing the raft, and then whatever it prints on top of that should be more precise. I've never seen it do a raft before with that square on the inside. That is certainly not big enough for this build. The outside is, if it builds the raft with that hole in the center for some reason. And I just downloaded a new version of Ultimaker Cura yesterday that I've never used before. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. If it puts down the raft with that hole in the center and builds on top of it, like in this area, it can build the whole nose perfectly. But will it do it that way? And there's the front view of what it's printing. If you're familiar with a mini Talon, you know how the front of it's shaped. This right here along here would be the bottom. Here would be one side. This would be the other side of the fuselage, and then the top is out of sight for us at this moment. So I'm going to print it with the opening down on the face plate, and basically the very front of the fuselage would be straight up in this Z-axis right here, so you'd be looking straight up at it. Now if it comes along and prints the part of the fuselage it needs to, it can easily do it. It just has to make it just a hair smaller than this raft. It can print the whole thing. If the new Ultimaker Cura is saving me some filament in this area with a new type of raft I've never seen, that's going to be another boon to my 3D printing. It's not much filament, but I'll take any savings I can get. So it'll do, I think it does 4 or 6 layers of this raft before it starts printing the part at all. And that's why I do them, so the bed leveling imperfections and stuff like that are worked out by the time it gets to the top of this raft and actually begins the build. Wow. I went back over and looked at the print. This is what I'm printing. This is the fuselage 1. It is the nose of the mini Talon, and properly oriented it would look like this. Oops. There we go. Properly oriented it would look like that. I told it to lower to the build plate and it made it slump forward a little bit, but you can see what I'm saying. Let's just do a Control Z on that and get it back like we want. So here's the front of the airplane. This is the deck on the top. This is the back. Now, in order not to build this with support, which taking the support off, in my humble opinion, for some of these pieces, the way I viewed them, is going to probably cause a little damage and structural loss. Especially this is being printed single wall. So I chose to print this print a little differently than maybe some of you others would have. Would it have printed this way? Well, and the reason I'm smoking this over still is I don't know how I may have to reprint this as it is. See, even with that flat surface down, I was not sure, And this is almost a 10-hour print. I don't want to waste that much filament. I was not sure about some of these angles up in here, whether or not it would be able to print well without support. So I chose to orient the build in this fashion with that opening, the back of it, down. And then just seems to me like this up through here may be able to print without support. The support would be on the inside. It'd just be full of it though. Even tree support. I'm not too sure how well this is going to print without support. It's getting to a very small area up there, so the spanning will not be far at all, if that is when it gets to that portion. Oops, darn it. You could see the little tip there. And I think this may print without support just because it's such a small step between them. I don't know. I'm going to have to try this arc and this one without support, and of course this right here would be a problem because I chose to put it on the build plate this way. And this is the front while we were looking at it with the camera. So like I say, it was such that this is the top, these are the sides, and this is the bottom. And I chose to print it that way. Now I'm printing it on glass. I followed their recommendation of one wall, 30% cubic infill. They said 30 to 50 millimeters per second print speed. I just set it to 40. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to see what kind of strength I get out of it. And of course, like I say, I'm printing it on a raft simply because if my bed leveler, I have a BL Touch I installed, if it's not working perfectly right or whatever, some minute imperfections will be taken out in those first layers before it actually gets to this part. So that's the way I'm going to try it. The spool itself gave me the print speed and print temperature and bed temperature. My bed temperature was fine where it was. The site itself talked about well, let me bring that up to make sure you agree with me. Or I've got the right information is what I'm looking for here. When I ask you guys what you think about it, I'm trying to verify that my thinking matches reality. And this is where I got this information, print using the PLA I ordered, this one, and this sends you to a link. Thought about ordering it in this lime green. But I had seen this PLA on Flight Test, I think showed that to me before I saw it here. Whoops, accidentally got out of that information. So 3% cubic subdivision infill. I didn't really understand the subdivision part. Perhaps I should have looked a little deeper. I'm not a 3D printing expert. I did put this one together. I did put stepper motor smoothers on it, BL Touch bed leveler. It was an Ender 3 I took and just bought the separate parts and put them in myself to make it much better than an Ender 3. It's got stronger springs. What else did I do to it? Direct drive, took the Bowden tube off of it. I moved the equipment bay from the front to the rear, made it a double bay, put a Raspberry Pi in it so I could communicate with it Wi-Fi. I can roll it around on the card it's on anywhere in the house. All I need is to plug it into a wall outlet, and I can use it anywhere in the house that way that I want. As long as I can get electricity to it. I don't have to get anything but electricity to it. I have beginner's knowledge of Ultimaker Cure, and not sure I totally know what I'm doing in this program. So that's why I'm not stating, sort of telling you what I did. You can say, oh, you screwed up that subdivision infill. Well, let me look for that myself real quick, because that would be this infill right here. I put to 3 for 3% cubic. But let's see, is there something about subdivision in here? Infill extruder line distance. Cubic subdivision shell. Well, I don't know what that is, but well, I didn't see that pop anything up over here. Well, that's the only thing I see about cubic subdivision. I'll leave that there, but I don't see that did anything in here unless... Yeah, there it is. Darn it. I guess I should start that print over, should I not? Cubic subdivision shell. It doesn't tell me what to set that at, and I don't think it did in the documentation. I'm going to go back and stop that print, start it over again, and see what happens here. I don't like any kind of errors. You have to follow the documentation the first few times to see if the documentation's right or wrong. If the documentation works, everything's cool. But you can't start out not following the documentation. And it's the way I do things. And single wall in Cura was right here. This was a 2. I just changed it to a 1. And like I say, on the spool itself, and this is a picture of the spool, I said 30 to 50 millimeters per second print speed. I had been printing at 50. I decided just to slow it down. This filament, by the way, is really, really brittle before it's melted. I don't know about after it's melted. Printing temperature 190. I chose 200, 190 to 210. That's generally what I do. I will split the difference on things like that. That's basically what I did with the 30 to 50. I was printing at 215 with the last PLA I was using, because it was recommended for 200 to like 230. At bed temperature, mine was 60. I just left it at that. I didn't drop it down. With that raft underneath there, the heat won't make the part itself slump too much, in my humble opinion. So this is where I took this information from to build it. I'm going to let this print. I'm going to see how it prints the way it is. Then I'm going to reprint it, even though it's going to take the amount of filament away from me. It's going to take 10 hours worth of printing away from me. I'm going to be 1 day on the nose of this aircraft. I'm going to reprint it again with this right here change made, because, like I say, in my opinion, you follow someone's instructions to the letter the first time, and then if things don't work out, that's when you start looking for fixes to problems. If everything works out, but you feel like there could be some tweaking in areas, then that's your time to modify it to your liking. Except for the fact I did modify it. They don't say anything about a raft or no raft. Let's see. I guess I didn't also show where I changed the temperature. Anyway, so it will not finish printing until almost the time I go to bed tonight near midnight. So I probably won't comment much more on this if something crazy doesn't happen. Oops, I hadn't changed this one on this print. That needs to go down to 200. There we go. Now then I can resave this project and reprint it again tomorrow. Compare the two pieces, see what it feels like to me the difference in them is, and I'll let you guys know. I'm not sure that would take longer printing time. Close to 10 hours, guesstimate. I call that a guesstimate. I've got all the parts for this in this folder. Here's all the files, and then I'm modifying them for rotation on the build surface, etc., 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 and turn them into projects and putting them over here so that in the future I will have things here that I don't have to do all that stuff with. They will be rotated. Everything will be done to them. All right. So I don't expect there to be a lot of other strangeness. Boy, the raft was new to me, and see, parts like this one are going to be pretty interesting to print, in my humble opinion, because I'm going to have to figure out how to print them. See, now this one I decided to, let's see, oops. I decided to print this way. Whoop, come on now. Poor old hands. There we go. Yeah. Now we can rotate it. See if I can rotate it 180 more easily. 150, 65, 95. Come on, there we go. Now we'll stick that thing back on the build surface. Like this one, I sort of chose to build like this. God, that color is glary. And the reason for that is here where the wings are going to be is on the build surface here. Doesn't seem to be anything inside to worry about. I was worried if it was rotated another direction, then this surface would need support. I'm trying to build it without support. I'm still worried about these tabs building right. And when I say right, I mean properly and with some kind of strength. This is where the screws go through to hold the wings on, so that's not a place to be wishy-washy about. So that's the kind of areas I'm worried about. Of course, the holes in here, I think those will print okay. I'm worried about the strength. Of course, now you can see the layers on the print are going to be in this direction. So strength is always better in stuff like this in one direction or the other. Would it matter? Does it really need to be printed this way so that the strength is, it's built in layers this way for strength? I do not know. This way presents a lot of problems. First of all, for me, that's too big for my little old Ender 3. That's why it changed colors on me. Let's see if I can pull it in there. Nope, there's just no way that's going to print on an Ender 3 like that. Raft or no raft. I don't think that would make any difference at all. No, it don't make a difference at all. So that's why I had to rotate it the other way. And like I say, I looked at this, and it being flat, and see, if you print it this way, look at all this. You got this overhang here, and on the inside you got to worry about support for. So rather than put this side down, which is the bigger one, probably would have done that otherwise, I put this side down because of the plastic going all the way down, whereas here it doesn't. And I could be, when I get to this one prints for a long time. I can print it like this. The raft will matter for my slicing estimate. Some of you 3D, everybody should be almost better than me in 3D printing. I might be better at wiring up the electronics, moving the electronics around, installing them, tuning them, calibrating them, etc. than others, but I am a total newbie on Cura. I've started working a little bit on making my own shapes and printing them, and I've had success. I can learn things rather quickly. I just don't have experience with them like a lot of you guys. So that's going to take 1 day and 16 hours. Yeah, okay, I rounded it up 1 minute. And take 37 meters of filament. I don't really want to make a bunch of mistakes with all of this. But, again, I think in this orientation, the only thing it's going to have trouble with, and these look like they're a small enough angle where it just has to go out a little bit each layer, and I don't think it's going to slump. I really don't. We're going to find out. I guess I'll find out, won't I? All right. As always, thank you.